This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
The Charlotte skyline today glistens in the sunlight of daybreak. But as the thousands go to work, underneath their very feet lies Charlotte's golden past.
Charlotte began to produce substantial amounts of gold. They were mining all up and down Mint Street. In fact, at one point, Charlotte had over 80 operating mines.
That's right, gold mines, making Charlotte a part of the nation's first gold rush, a rush kicked off by a 17-pound nugget found in a Cabarrus County creek. And after close to a century of mining,
moving into the 20th century, most of the gold mines around North Carolina ceased to operate. They were no longer economical because of the nature of the deposits.
But as the saying goes, there's still gold in them there hills.
When someone offers you a chance to run a gold mine, you take it.
But people's fascination with gold is far from over, and today recreational gold miners travel from all over to pan, sluice, and even dredge for gold in North Carolina.
Let's see what we got.
And on this episode of Trail of History, we'll meet the people still captivated by the search for gold and willing to break a sweat in search of this precious metal.
I find gold every time I'm up here.
We'll learn about young Conrad Reed and the 17-pound nugget he unknowingly discovered that started the nation's first gold rush.
His dad used it for a doorstop.
Then we'll explore the legacy of gold mining in North Carolina. We travel to one small town that was the epicenter of gold mining and the envy of the region. We'll also meet community leaders back in the Queen City, working to add another jewel to the crown with Charlotte's very own gold district. Those stories and more right here on Trail of History. Panning for gold might look easy enough. After all you need is a pan, a bit of pay dirt, and some water, right? But there's technique, and here at Reed Gold Mine, visitors to this North Carolina State Historic Site can try their luck.
It's definitely fun. Takes a lot of patience.
For siblings Ariel and Levi Trent, Lady Luck was on their side.
I don't know how much it was. It's so small. I would say it's probably not worth that much, but it was pretty exciting because I didn't find any last time.
It's 2 small pieces of gold that I found this. Yes, it was very exciting.
But to understand the history behind North Carolina's gold, let's start at the beginning. Meet geologist Dr. Andy Bobiarczyk.
So I have a PhD in geological sciences. Everybody knows what gold looks like and that it's valuable and pretty and all that, but where does it come from? And the ultimate answer is gold comes from stars. It's one of the elements produced in novas and then in solar nebulae like that formed our solar system. In Earth, gold gets to near us, close to the surface, by geologic processes like volcanic activity. Gold is fairly common. That doesn't mean you can go out and pick up any rock out of your backyard and you're going to find gold in it. It may be just atoms of gold, but it's fairly widespread in crustal rocks.
There are 2 types of gold mining. They're called a placer or a lode.
A lode is one of these vein-type deposits, or sometimes a more massive deposit that's sort of in place in the bedrock. Placer deposits are usually associated with rivers or streams where erosion has removed some of those vein deposits and concentrated fragments of those rocks into the stream gravels. This is when people go out and do panning in streams. What they're really panning is placer deposits.
A lode mine might only produce 1 gram of gold per ton of mined rock. So you might ask yourself, why all the effort?
Something like platinum is more rare, but gold has high value because of its use in so many different ways.
Jewelry might be the first thing that comes to mind, but look around you. Gold is everywhere in our modern world, from your cell phones, computers, televisions, and spacecraft. That versatility and all its uses make gold extremely valuable. Over in Cabarrus County, just east of Charlotte, you'll find the Reed Gold Mine. While it no longer produces gold, the site now serves as a treasure trove for those wanting nuggets of information about North Carolina's rich gold history, which goes back more than 2 centuries.
This was John Reed's farm.
He was a Hessian soldier that came over during the Revolutionary War. When he left the military service, settled in this part of North Carolina, married Sarah Kaiser, started raising a family. Turns out he had a gold mine here without knowing it.
The couple's 12-year-old son Conrad gets the credit for the life-changing discovery.
Well, as the story goes, one Sunday he and his siblings went walking along the creek bow and arrow fishing, and he saw this interesting shiny rock down in the creek.
And on that day in 1799, it was this creek where young Conrad found that shiny rock. Though the exact location of his discovery is lost to time, the nugget itself remains legendary.
It's described as about the size of a small child's shoe. When his parents came home, he showed it to them. They didn't know what it was. His dad used it for a doorstop.
That's right, used as a doorstop, until 3 years later, when in 1802, John Reed took his 17-pound doorstop to Fayetteville.
The jeweler there melted it down into a gold bar and asked John Reed to name his price. Well, he thought about it, and he finally said, "I'll take $3.50, because that is how much he hoped to make each week off of his farm." So he figured a supposedly worthless shiny rock, that's a fair price. Well, the problem is the gold in that rock then was worth $3,600.
And with that, the Reed family became part of history and a founding family in the discovery of gold in our nation.
This is not only an important site for the state of North Carolina, but the entire United States, because this is the first documented discovery of gold in America. This happened, we were 50 years before California.
Initially, John Reed started with placer mining, finding the gold near the surface and the creeks.
Some of the earliest stuff was actually just using anything that would hold water. So you're looking at old frying pans, plates, things that they could just put some of the water and the dirt in to try to sift out the gold.
Like many enterprises in the South, the Reed mine used enslaved workers, and one of those workers is credited with a second astonishing and legendary find.
But the interesting story is in 1802, right when they first started mining, one of the enslaved workers named Peter, not far from where we are now on the property, discovered a 28-pound gold nugget right along the banks of Little Meadow Creek. That became the largest gold nugget ever found east of the Mississippi River.
After nearly 30 years of placer mining, John Reed began underground mining.
The underground mining started around 1832 and continued up until the mine shut down in 1912.
The miners would chase gold-bearing veins of quartz, hauling it to the surface, then crushing it in a mill. Initially a Chilean mill, then in later years a stamp mill, like this example made by Mecklenburg County Iron Works in 1895. The mills would crush the quartz to separate the gold. Mills like this operated all around the Carolina gold fields. The Reed Mine was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1966. Today, visitors can go underground and explore the actual mine shafts. They can check out the stamp mill, tour the museum, and of course, pan for gold. Since it is a North Carolina historic site, admission is free, but there is a small fee to pan for gold.
Always very fun to go in the panning area, and as either an instructor or just watching, as people going through and they're thinking, well, I'm not going to find anything in these pans. There's no gold. And then you get down to the bottom and you're like, are you sure there was no gold in this pan? And they kind of look at you wide. I say, well, here it is right here. And they just get all big and wide-eyed and then all happy and stuff. And that's what I like to see, because it gives them an interesting memory of visiting here, but then they start to really realize what they've seen today and the importance of gold to North Carolina and the country as a whole.
When gold was discovered on the Reed Farm, other prospectors arrived, looking to find their own discovery.
So this gold region ran from up toward Greensboro, down through Charlotte into upstate South Carolina, and then west toward the town of Rutherford. So they were operating, and people were finding gold throughout North Carolina.
One community that thrived from all the prospecting is just 17 miles northeast of the Reed Mine. Meet Vivian Hopkins of Gold Hill.
I'm Vice President of the Historic Gold Hill and Mines Foundation. Gold Hill got its name in 1843 when the town had grown so big it was in need of a post office. First gold discovery here at Gold Hill was 1824 on the farm of Andrew Troutman, and it wasn't until the 1840s when George Barnhart moved here to where we really prospered and became more famous.
The mines in Gold Hill were extensive, and just about everywhere you look, you'll find equipment and ruins of a bygone era.
This was a huge gold boom town, and right now is a great time to come and visit because you have the gold history of other locations, but then you come here to Gold Hill and you can actually see it. The Gold Hill Mining District has 24 gold mines. The primary ones here at Gold Hill proper are the Barnhart, and that gold mine is 435 feet. The Randolph is 850 feet. Before the Civil War, out of these two mines alone here on the park property with the Barnhart and the Randolph, $7 to $9 million in gold just out of those two veins alone.
And according to Hopkins, there might have been some competitive energy with Charlotte.
In one of the Charlotte Archive newspapers, the mayor of Charlotte, and this was around 1855, he made a statement that he had high hopes for Charlotte that it would one day be as big and prosperous as Gold Hill. Gold was one of the largest employers in North Carolina. During a century of mining industry in North Carolina,
Hopkins and the historic Gold Hill and Mines Foundation provided a valuable collection of historic images.
we've got close to 300 19th century photos of Gold Hill. There were 3 gentlemen here in 1960 who worked probably close to a year collecting photos from families and old files.
One photo stands out to Hopkins.
As a matter of fact, the photo of all the miners sitting, getting ready to go in to work. I call them men with character because there's one miner with a huge floppy hat on. He probably worked outside. He probably worked at the sawmill cutting the timber, you know, to shore up underground. And then there's another old gentleman sitting right in the front, and he's got a star drill in his hand.
But for Hopkins, the connection to Gold Hill goes beyond her love of history. Remember the man who first found gold in Gold Hill?
For me and my family, this really does give us a sense of pride. That Andrew Troutman, who discovered that first gold in 1824 here at Gold Hill, was my husband's 3rd great-grandfather. So it really does good for us to say we have that connection. We have that personal connection, which made Gold Hill what it is today.
To the east of the Reed Mine and located in the Uwharrie National Forest, you'll find what's left of the Russell Mine. One University of North Carolina at Charlotte instructor and geologist, Dr. Andy Bobiarczyk, uses for instruction.
It started out, like some of the other mines did, as a surface mine. And the initial operations in that mine, they used hydraulic pressure, basically water under pressure, to wash the soil down and to concentrate it in sluices, and then sort of do an advanced form of panning to separate the gold out from the lighter minerals. And this created a big hole on the top of a ridge. And then later, in the later 1800s, they did a little bit of underground mining there. The unique thing about the Russell Mine is that it's still preserved. It's in Uwharrie National Forest. The Forest Service recognizes it as having a historic significance. And so they want to preserve it, and then a conservation group actually purchased the mineral rights to the Russell Mine, and it's now protected from exploration. So it's a great teaching opportunity to take my students and say, here, look at this big hole in the ground. This is not natural. There were people working here for decades in the 19th century looking for gold.
About 20 years after the first discovery of gold in North Carolina, a Charlotte farmer and tavern owner made his own discoveries.
Spring or summer of 1825. There was a guy named Matthias Behringer. His farm was located over near Carson Boulevard, 277, 77 in Moorhead. In the process of working his field, he came across a rock. It was a white quartz rock. He realized that there was some gold in there. He started digging, looking for other rocks that would have gold deposits in them. And over a process of time, he realized that it was not just pockets of gold, it was actually a vein. And that became eventually the first deep mine in Mecklenburg County, the St. Catherine mine.
And with the St. Catherine mine came the gold boom.
They were mining all up and down Mint Street. In fact, at one point, Charlotte had over 80 operating mines.
Mines like the Rudisill, located here on Summit Avenue, went down around 350 feet, made possible with new technology and skilled workers.
The mines really took off when a gentleman came here in 1829 named Count Vincent de Rivafinoli. He was sent here by a British mining company, and he came here with a steam-powered water pump, so he was able to get much deeper. He came with the experience of how to build construction beams to hold back the walls so that you could get deeper. He brought in with him skilled miners who had experience in the field. A third of Charlotte's population was foreign-born. The church downtown, St. Peter's Catholic Church, not that building, but the beginning of that church was because there were so many miners coming into the area that were not a Presbyterian or Protestants. They were Catholics.
So much gold was being mined in the region that in 1835, President Andrew Jackson signed a bill to establish a U.S. mint in Charlotte.
For a town that small to get something that's that premier and that important, it changed Charlotte. I think that it changed not just the exterior of the place, it began to be a place of commerce. It began to bring in a lot of foreign investment, which always was important to any growing city or town. It eventually got the attention of the state, and when the railroads were being planned, they put them through Charlotte as opposed to closer into Salisbury. So the railroads took us to the next phase, which was the textile development and growth, and the manufacturing growth, the banking growth. So I mean, it was really the catalyst that distinguished us.
But eventually, the gold mining boom in Charlotte went bust.
You make a fortune and then you lose a fortune, because as you begin to get deeper, it gets more expensive.
Most of our deposits of gold in the Charlotte area just don't have enough volume in them today to be economical. Moving into the 20th century, most of the gold mines that were in North Carolina ceased to operate.
The Rudisill mine held on until 1937. This vacant lot is all that's left. But today, this neighborhood in Charlotte is re-embracing its history. It's called the Gold District.
My name is Karen Wingett. I'm chairwoman of the Gold District of Charlotte. The Gold District was traditionally an industrial neighborhood, of course, started by the gold mining. Since the late 1800s, we've seen so many different businesses, industrial and otherwise, come into the Gold District.
As it did in the 1800s, Charlotte's Gold District continues to attract those seeking to make it on their own.
My name is Dan Davis. I'm the owner of Craft Tasting Room and Growler Shop. We're in South End Charlotte on the Gold District. Craft is a little creation we came up with, just built kind of from a love of craft beer.
Davis says the district offered just about everything he needed in a location.
You know, when we first moved to Charlotte and decided we wanted to open a business, I looked a lot of areas around, and the Gold District really seemed to be this up-and-coming neighborhood. It had this great vibe. The Gold District has been growing leaps and bounds since we first opened over here. Probably every year for the last 5 years, we've had 2 or 3 businesses open up. It's kind of become this little hot hub over here.
The nonprofit group promoting the Gold District has also embraced murals to share the history and make the district more inviting.
Our idea was to wake up the alleys by providing plants and lighting and art so that people would be drawn to walk through these spaces on their way from one great new business to another. The murals help us to keep buildings relevant in the neighborhood. You can take a very old, previously unattractive building and give it a new spirit through mural arts. We have so many wonderful property owners in the neighborhood who have encouraged this as well. There's an enormous amount of history here, and the more you learn, the more you want to learn, and it belongs to everyone.
However, the legacy of Charlotte's gold mines isn't always so shiny.
So when mining ceases in some of these places, they often just leave the subterranean cavities there. There's no way of filling them. Over time, the wood decays. And if you're close enough to the surface, that ends up with subsidence.
In the fall of 2018, Ashley Widener and her husband went into the basement of their West Charlotte home and had a sinking feeling. Something was not right.
We were coming down to get Christmas decorations and just noticed that something looked a little bit off. And you looked around and couldn't really figure it out, and then realized that there was a very large hole. And it actually had swallowed one of the structural piers. So that was one of the reasons why everything looked a little bit different, is because it was less crowded, so to speak. I had a lot of thoughts running through my mind. Collapsed gold mine was not one of them.
The couple says at this time there's no telling how deep the shaft actually goes, and no economical solution to fill it in.
We are just gonna wait and see. There are things that we could do, but all of it is so expensive, and there are so many unknowns with every option that we just decided that our best option is to throw up a prayer, cross our fingers, and just hope that it doesn't continue to grow, and just kind of wait and see what happens.
Geologists like Bobby Archick say these cave-ins are rare, but not uncommon. He adds one of the biggest issues: there are very few maps to pinpoint the exact location of the old mine shafts.
We don't have the data to tell someone, okay, yeah, your house is over a mine.
Mix a bit of dirt with a bit of water in a pan, and one might think you're making mud pie, but it's a bit more scientific than that.
And this just gets all the bigger stuff out. And there was a 1/4-inch screen, so anything smaller than a quarter goes down in the pan.
Meet recreational gold prospector Randy Kimbrell, and he's on the hunt.
So gold's heavy and it'll settle right to the bottom of that pan. Then I'll just float the light stuff off.
Kimbrell lives in Gaffney, South Carolina, but makes the trip to the Thermal City Gold and Gem Mine near Rutherfordton every chance he gets.
It's worth thousands and thousands of dollars worth of therapy. I can come up here and I leave all my problems at home when I'm in this little 100-acre place. That's why I call it my little piece of heaven.
A little piece of heaven for a man that might just have gold fever.
And I came up here and they taught me how to pan. Found 3 flakes that first day. Been hooked ever since.
And pan after pan, something keeps him motivated.
What keeps me doing it? Anticipation. I've come up here and I've found 15 flakes in one pan.
There's been gold mining at Thermal City since the 1830s. Today, the mine is owned and operated by the Langford family. They offer a place to camp and mine to those suffering with gold fever, a place to scratch the itch and possibly find a bit of the coveted yellow stuff.
It's the thrill of the hunt. I mean, you go out, you have your pan, your shovel, you don't know if you're gonna find it.
And co-owner James Langford might also have a bit of gold fever.
When someone offers you a chance to run a gold mine, you take it.
Today, recreational prospectors can start with basic panning, move up to the high bankers, large trommels, and even go for a swim in the creek in order to do some dredging. He says they're happy to teach you anything you need to know.
You always thought about prospecting for gold, don't know where to start, we'll teach you everything from the ground up. And that's the best part, is we are willing to help anyone from any walk of life trying to learn or experience, because we hate seeing anyone have a bad day or a rough day out there. And any trick or tip we can give, we'll give it.
Clinton Carr brings his family up from Moncks Corner, South Carolina, and on this day, his daughter Adeline is giving him a hand.
Oh, I love it. I get to spend time with my kids. She loves being outdoors. We both love being outdoors, so it makes my day. That's why we drive 4.5, 5 hours to come up here. And right now we're doing the high banking. Basically, we bring dirt up to it. This is out of river mining. So you bring the dirt up to it and you pump water to it and you can just shovel into it. We also do the dredging and everything like that, but this is great for the kids to be able to have fun and dig in the dirt.
The shiny gold might be the draw, but Carr adds there's something else about Thermal City.
I like the people, man. I've always liked the people. We can bring our kids up here. She's 6, my little boy's 2. We can let them run around. It's like a family up here.
And for the Langfords, Thermal City is all about family. Several years ago, Ohio natives Jeff Langford and his wife Eileen purchased the mine and campground with a dream to own a gold mine. In 2018, Jeff Langford passed away unexpectedly, but his wife and family keep it going. Son James says while his father is surely missed, at Thermal City, there's something bigger than gold.
There's just a lot of good souls here, and if it wasn't for them, we probably wouldn't have made it as far as we did after losing my father last year, and a lot of people stepped up and helped us out, and now we're all just one big family. And
as for the gold, that will always be a motivating factor.
Man, the gold's out there. Anybody can find it. Come give it a try. Thermal City makes it real easy.
The discovery of gold forever changed North Carolina's history. Who would have thought a young farm boy in Cabarrus County would find a 17-pound gold nugget? And that moment would redefine the entire state. The precious metal lured people from around the world to seek their fortunes, created boom towns like Gold Hill, and put Charlotte on the map as a financial center of the times. Today, there's still gold in North Carolina. It's just a little bit harder to find. But the chance to find that precious metal still draws folks in. These are the folks who are willing to get their hands dirty on the timeless search for gold. In doing so, they're keeping the history and future possibilities alive here in North Carolina.
A production of PBS Charlotte.